Hello, welcome to another Philosophical Friday with me, Natasha Alvarez. I've been thinking about disability content, and one question keeps coming back to me. Why does disability content so often begin with the assumption that we have to explain ourselves to non-disabled people? Who decided that they are always the audience? I want to see more voices from people with physical disability from every walk of life and from all over the world. I want to hear what people think about their culture, their careers, families, politics, books, beauty, relationships, you name it. But sometimes I look at the content being created and I wonder, who are we really making it for? For example, I personally do not need to watch another person transferring from a wheelchair into a bed. Maybe another wheelchair user does. Maybe that person is looking for a different technique or trying to figure out how to make a transfer safer. In that case, the content is being made for our community, and that makes sense. But sometimes those videos do not feel like they are being made for us. They feel like they're being made so non-disabled people can watch how we get into bed, how we get dressed, how we get into a car, and even how we cook. And that is where I get confused. We keep telling the non-disabled community that we're just like everyone else, and yet we keep creating content to show how we do ordinary things differently. Why? And which is it? Are we just like everyone else? Or are we presenting our lives as something unusual that people need to watch and understand? Now, obviously, we do certain things differently. I use a manual wheelchair. The way I get into a car is going to look different from the way someone else gets into a car. But non-disabled people also do things differently from one another. And they do not usually create videos explaining how their ordinary movements are different. They simply make the content. And I have thought about this with AudacityMagazine.com. There have been times when I've said, you know what, I gotta change this. Because I realize that I do not need to make every single article about disability or explain every opinion through my disability. I can love a book because it's a great book. And I can relate to the character, but not always because I have a disability. Sometimes I can relate to the character because I'm human. That's just one example, but it made me think about how often we feel that we have to translate our lives for a non-disabled audience. Why can't someone with a physical disability review a book simply because they love the book? That's what I do. Why can't a woman in a wheelchair make a video about makeup, where the subject is the makeup, and not that she has a disability, and therefore she's okay to have makeup? I don't get that. Why can't a disabled person make a video complaining about the price of eggs without deciding the inspiring part is that a wheelchair user went grocery shopping? People without disabilities make content for people who share their interests. They talk about makeup with people who love makeup. They talk about books with people who love books. So why can't we do the same? Why do I find more videos about people like us making videos explaining why we are just like them? I really don't get that. And I'm not saying that we should never make educational content. Sometimes we need to explain access. Sometimes we need to show discrimination. I get that too. Sometimes another disabled person may genuinely need to know how someone else transfers, cooks, drives, because it might help them out. I get that. But I think we need to ask ourselves, where should we be focusing our content? And is it helping our community? Is it allowing us to speak to one another? Or are we once again performing our lives for non-disabled people and hoping that if they watch enough of us, they will finally understand that we are human? Because if we are really just like everyone else, then maybe we should start creating content just like everyone else. Maybe the wheelchair is visible without being the topic. Maybe disability shaped our lives without having to explain every thought we have. And maybe we need more content in which people with physical disabilities are not demonstrating. We are just existing. It's really that simple. So my question, who are we really making disability content for? And why do we keep assuming that non-disabled people are the ones we need to explain ourselves to? If you want to, check out more at audacitymagazine.com and maybe sign up for the newsletter. Comes out every week. Until then,